So I've got this one idea that's kind of percolating in my head a little bit about this pyramid of AI literacy. And we've
Mm,
got the CMO of an AI company here. So I feel like it's a really cool opportunity to have you like poke holes here and maybe kind of improve that.
mhm.
So there's obviously a lot of confusion around the path to leveling up as a marketer when it comes
Yeah.
to AI and this idea of AI literacy. Like, where do we start? When do we know that we're kind of, in the 10% or whatever? So I
Yeah.
took a first stab at it. For the folks watching on YouTube, we'll just like put it up on the screen. But I'd love to just like go through it and have you kind of like poke holes at it. Let me know what you think about it.
Perfect.
So the first level is basic exposure to LLMs. Like you've used a couple of AI tools, you don't really have a grasp of what's under the hood, but you've
Mhm.
kind of played around with it. The second one is prompting and tool proficiency. So you're starting to, get a bit more dangerous in understanding how do you improve the results, the output by structuring your prompts across different use cases. Level three is you're starting to understand like model literacy, maybe a good way to put it. Like, what are LLMs? Like, what is it that I'm actually using here? How do they work? How are they different from machine learning? What's the difference between ML and NLP? And then maybe level four is machine learning and systems fluency. So you're kind of taking a bit of a higher level grasp on how AI can connect to data, workflows, broadening ML concepts, and then maybe like level five. I was kind of like not sure what to put for level five, but there's like this thing about strategic and ethical
Mm.
applications when it comes to being the person who's leading AI discussions, not just like suggesting tools and being the person that just like suggests stuff versus leading those discussions with like clarity, challenging the hype, not
Mhm.
being like shiny object syndrome type person, but like guiding responsible adoption. What do you think of those four levels? Is there another one in there? Poke holes at that.
No, I think those are really intuitive. I would suggest maybe that fifth piece come a little bit earlier.
Hmm.
First of all, I think one thing that we're seeing so often at our client organizations who are primarily B2C marketers, some of whom have been your guests on the show, like Angela, Roida at Meta, that they are working within these really complex organizations. And so having that shared organizational perspective around the strategy and the ethics and the data, and to a certain extent also the tools themselves is so foundational, right? That you need to have that enablement to make sure that you're all singing from the same songbook and that you don't have these pocketed different teams approaching AI separately, either in ways that are just straight up non-compliant. And you're going to find out pretty shortly that after a lot of investment and training, you're going to get that thing taken away from you, or that they're just oppositional to broader goals of the organization. So I do think that enablement piece is so foundational, and that it has to be like across the entire enterprise. And we're only a 600-person company, but we've done a great job of that, from our GCO to our CFO to operations, making sure that we're all using the same tools. And that's the second piece, which is tools, making sure that you've got enterprise procured tools. So I think you have that in there sort of within like 2 to 4, but that you're all using the same tools and that you're not building these little fiefdoms of knowledge on tools that might be, fun to use at an individual level. Like ChatGPT is great. Who doesn't love OpenAI? But we as a company are using Elvex, which is essentially a wrapper. Have you heard of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great, and they give you access to Claude and Gemini all in one place, but you can build a lot more institutional knowledge,
Hmm.
and so I think that is also really fundamental. And then, of course, the last thing is what you astutely noted, it's experience. You can't really hire for this experience, right? This is a really interesting paradoxical moment. It reminds me of when I worked in mobile technology, and mm, iPhone apps flew up and everyone was looking for like 3 years of iPhone app development when the App Store had been in market for 18 months. It doesn't work that way. So you're going to have to give people experience. And with that comes this sort of humility to know that some of that experience is going to be throwaway. It's just going to be to give people that muscle to talk about the failures they've had and to know how they're going to iterate and to share those learnings. You have to have a forum to share those learnings regularly. So the way that we use Elvex is really, I think, pretty impressive for a company of our size. We have 2 business analysts on our ops team who are dedicated to building custom apps to support our business goals. And we've got apps on the marketing team that we've got built that really help us on a daily basis. So, for example, Maeve is our archetype. She's our dream ICP. She's a mid-40s SVP of marketing at a B2C brand. And we have a lot of content around who she is, what her brand voice is, a lot of documents that sort of inform that otherwise the team would go to manually to check their content against. So we built a Maeve app. And now every piece of content that you're seeing, whether it's on social media, whether it's the session, sort of blurbs that you're seeing on the Think Summit website, they've all been run through that app to make sure that it's a really consistent brand voice. We've got other cool apps that are meant for the rest of the organization, like a content marketing search bot. So instead of going out and just searching our blog for the most relevant content, if you're working with a financial services prospect or OTA prospect, you can just go in and natural language, talk to it like you're talking to someone on the content marketing team and say like, hey, what's the latest short form content that I can send to someone for top of funnel to get them to attend Think Summit? And it's right there. So it's been really a game changer for how we work, and shocking how quickly it's become a part of our day to day.
I'd love to get into like some of this, like talking about AI testing tools. And you mentioned your team's doing that. How do you think about, because there's a variety. I know you mentioned Elvex. Can you give us like another example of AI testing, and like what's your mental model around making sure your team is always like experimenting with new tools, always learning? Is there like 20% time or something? Like how do you think about that?
Yeah, I wish it was that prescribed, but we're really trying to foster a culture where people just think, as you approach any new task, how is AI going to enable me to get this done better and faster, and potentially make it a little more enjoyable to do? So one of the tools that we're playing with now is called Spark. It's a concierge like event marketing tool. And essentially it includes a whole host of different templates for different types of events that you're creating. And events are a really important part of our go-to-market motion. And so we're constantly coming up with concepts for different formats, different targeting rules. And then there's all of the documentation that comes out of each of them, whether they're executive events or broad scale enablement events or roundtable forums. And this essentially prompts you, once you create a little bit of a summary, it kind of creates a lot of those documents automatically. And then it will help you iterate on them. Like, okay, this is actually for the C-suite, so here's how the language is going to change. And this is the date, so now we're going to cascade the project management tools. So we're not ready to turn our entire process over to them by any means, but it's just a huge unlock in terms of thinking about the things that we can automate and get there faster with.